Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Sorry for the slight delay in getting going here. We're 4 minutes after the hour. Apologize for that. We had some technical difficulties this morning, but we are here and we're excited to share with you an exciting topic today. We're going to be doing a deep dive into how you can use Cloud ALM connected with ServiceNow to manage your alerts, your system alerts. Why is this an important topic? Well, many people are running SAP. They have alerts that are being generated by the SAP platform. They want to consolidate all of those alerts into one place. An obvious choice right now is to use SAP Cloud ALM because SAP Cloud ALM has a lot of monitoring capabilities that you can build. You can manage technical monitoring. You can manage business monitoring for business process monitoring, job monitoring, and all kinds of things that will help you to make sure that your SAP platform is performing correctly. But many of those people that are using Cloud ALM or using SAP also run ServiceNow as part of their application landscape to manage their other applications. And they want to be able to consolidate all of the alerts that they receive from Cloud ALM into ServiceNow. So we've built an integration that allows you to do exactly that. And we're going to be walking through that today and help you to understand how you can take advantage of that within your organization. So today I'm going to be introducing my guest who will help to walk us through this experience. Before we do that, just a few ground rules. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'd love to hear why you're here. This is an important subject. Many of you probably have interest and questions about how this can operate. Please put your questions in the chat. We'll monitor the chat and we'll get to those questions at the end of the discussion. And then, we'll have an opportunity to discuss those things with you. Right now, what I'm going to do, in case you are new to CoreALM, I'm going to do a quick overview of who we are, which gives you an idea of the breadth of services and applications that we can provide. I'm going to share my screen quickly here. CoreALM's been in business for about 14 years. It was started when our CEO and founder, Labana Patucci, left his position at SAP as the Application Lifecycle Management Lead. So working at SAP, he was responsible for managing the ALM processes overall. At the time, the only tool that SAP offered in that space was Solution Manager. Solution Manager, I think this was even prior to the 7.2 release, which is the predominant release that most people are using today. Many of you are aware that Solution Manager is going to achieve end of life in 2027, and there will be support after that period, but gets expensive, especially for customers that are on Rise. They have access to SAP Cloud ALM, which comes included today. So we support both integrations with SAP Cloud ALM and SAP Solution Manager. That really started back in 2018 when Labanat and the CoreALM team recognized that many of our customers who are running SAP ALM tools like Solution Manager also had other applications in their landscape they were managing. And for those other applications, they use different tools such as Jira, Azure DevOps, and ServiceNow. And so we decided that there was an opportunity to go into that space and actually build integrations to allow those tools to work consistently in the same way that you work using those tools for non-SAP applications, but getting the benefit of the SAP ALM tools behind the scenes. And so started building those integrations, which we've been doing ever since. We've served some very large customers in the industry. Our tools have been tested in very high availability requirements, environments like validated systems, could be for medical devices, pharma, aerospace and defense type situations where it's very important to make sure that the change process is very robust. So these are some of our customers that we've served either using services or are running our solutions and have been running our solutions for a good long period of time. We cover all aspects of the application lifecycle management. So whether you're doing a new SAP like S4 implementation right now, or whether you're in maintenance mode and you've been running SAP for some time and you're just doing ongoing maintenance changes to it, we can cover all aspects of those types of changes, right from planning, which could be managing requirements, sprint planning, all of those types of activities that you do when you're making changes, Testing, we cover automated testing, performance testing, test case management, and test orchestration. Release management, of course, the transport management within SAP and tying that together with an overall change management process, and then monitoring, which is the topic for today. For those areas, we have services that take into account many different tools that are out there. We've already mentioned Jira, ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, but we also provide services related to Signavio and Tricentis for testing, and other tools as well. So we cover all aspects, tying those together with the best practices from SAP, including Solution Manager and Cloud ALM. What we find is that many of our customers who are using SAP delivery tools, especially application lifecycle management tools such as Cloud ALM or Solution Manager, they find that they also have other tools that are running in their landscape, such as ServiceNow, which we're going to be discussing today. And what that leads to is kind of inconsistencies because, the users have to use multiple different tools in order to keep track of things. So there ends up being decentralized access, double entries, sometimes errors or, version of the truth issues. What we do is we bring that into one set of tools using our connectors. So we have connectors for Cloud ALM, which we're going to be talking about today, one of those tools. We also have tools for Solution Manager connections, and we have an Agile Scrum board, which allows you to kind of have almost like a Jira or Azure DevOps sort of Scrum board-like view that sits on top of Focus Build, part of Solution Manager. And then we also have direct transport management controls that allow you to manage SAP transports directly from ServiceNow or Jira or Azure DevOps. So this is kind of a look at the overall kind of product list and how it covers across Solution Manager, Cloud ALM, direct transport management for implementations and for operations. I won't go into any more detail on that because we want to jump into the topic at hand, which is to discuss how monitoring can be integrated with Cloud ALM and synchronized with ServiceNow. So for that, I'm going to introduce my guest for today. My guest is Waldron Spahii, who is an ALM architect here at CoreALM. He's been working with our customers pretty much since we got going here, and is a Cloud ALM expert. He's been implementing Cloud ALM at many of our customers, and so I'm excited to be able to introduce Waldron today. Waldron, welcome to today's webinar.
Thank you, Steve, for the introduction. Again, Waldron Spahii, one of the solution architects here at CoreALM. So let me get my slides ready to share, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
In today's session, we're going to go through a very quick demonstration with the slides, and the goal is to really get into the demo and give you an idea into the Cloud ALM for operations, but also in addition to that, the integration to ServiceNow and how you can manage those incidents within ServiceNow directly and also close them within Cloud ALM. But before we do that, we'll kind of go through quickly an introduction to SAP Cloud ALM if you're unfamiliar with the tool itself. So as Steve mentioned, this is the replacement for SAP Solution Manager in the future, and it's a cloud tool from SAP, and it supports both from implementation. So for example, if you have any type of implementations, let's say such as enhancements or S4 implementations and etc., you could use Cloud ALM to manage all of those project tasks, including transports, and also pretty much have a Gantt view chart of a Gantt view of a project management and others. We'll also have some additional webinars around that area as well. Now, in today's, we're going to focus primarily on the operations side, which is in here. So, for example, if you're using Solution Manager today, or if you want to move to something like Cloud ALM, where you want to manage all of your environments, for example, for any type of, let's say, alerts that occur within those and forward them to Cloud ALM, you could use Cloud ALM for that, and monitoring as well. And again, this tool is in the public cloud, for example. And it's also dependent on your licensing with SAP. It's offered free from SAP up to a certain point, for example, for usage. Now, and as I mentioned, there's really two areas within SAP Cloud ALM. There's the implementation and also the operations portion. So on the implementation side, it follows pretty much the Activate methodology. So anywhere from design, build, test, and deploy. So it will help you with each one of those phases, for example, in order to deploy a project or any type of enhancements that you have. In today's, we're primarily going to discuss again on the how do we detect any type of issues, how do we analyze them, and then how do we correct or even automate, for example, if required. So the goal is, for example, to use Cloud ALM to monitor any of your environments, if it's cloud-based, right? If you have any type of BTP services, if it's, for example, if you use an S4 on-premise or any type of ERP systems, you could tab all of those different types of environments into Cloud ALM and then use Cloud ALM to monitor depending on the thresholds that you set. It does offer a ton of metrics out of the box that you can utilize, and you can turn them on immediately, for example, and those will be based on best practices that SAP has, but also then you can modify each one of the thresholds for the monitoring in order for you to detect and actually raise an alert only when that occurs. So those will, the operation side will help you collect the data, also depending if the threshold passes or not, alert immediately, so it gives you an alert within Cloud ALM, or you could send an email, or what we're going to go through today is, for example, in most cases we see where an alert is raised, our goal is to raise an incident within ServiceNow or a third-party tool where you can notify someone to resolve that issue and then finally close it. Now, the 4 different areas that the operations will help you is to primarily detect any type of issues that come into Cloud ALM. So it will collect all of the data depending on the thresholds that you turn on. Well, those will be collected into Cloud ALM, and then depending on those thresholds, they will automatically raise an alert. Now, to keep in mind, for example, even if the thresholds are not passed, I'll show you a couple of different views within the demonstration where you can, for example, at least look into and analyze those different types of metrics to understand, for example, how your system is behaving. Then if there's any type of alert raised at that point, this is where you could have different types of corrective actions. You can either have some type of automated actions, for example, where if the issue doesn't happen within a certain time, it can be automatically closed. Or, for example, in our case, we'll go through a ServiceNow, and you could also automate these by using some type of automatically close the alerts and etc. Or, for example, to fix these issues. Now, to get into more details and different types of capabilities, you'll have 6 different types of monitoring that you could use Cloud ALM for. One of them is going to be business process monitoring. So, for example, this is more on the functional side in most cases. So, if you want to, for example, monitor any type of sales order creation, for example, if there's 0 for a day, we may have an issue with those type of KPIs. So business process monitor can be used very similar to what was in Solution Manager, and there's a ton of KPIs that are out of the box to utilize. There's also integration and exception monitoring. This is primarily to monitor any type of interfaces. So you could monitor inbound, outbound, and also the middleware as well. So you could connect an example, an S4 and an integration suite system, and then you could monitor the interface from inbound, also outbound, as well as it reaches or as it a target or as it leaves a source system as well. In addition to that, there's also user monitoring, for example. So if you want to detect any type of different, let's say, stations of monitoring, you could position those stations, and then you could get an idea. Let's say, for example, if there is different locations that are having any type of network latency and etc. Cloud ALM could run those scripts for you, and you could detect them before a user does. There's also job and automation monitoring, so primarily any type of jobs that you have, let's say ABAP jobs within SAP, it will grab all of those jobs that you have, and then you could monitor any type of canceled, any type of delayed jobs, for example, and also raise alerts on there as well. Configuration and security. So if there's any security changes, for example, you could have all of that analysis within Cloud ALM, not necessarily a monitoring, but you could view if there's any type of security changes that changes from day to day. And then last but not least, health monitoring. So this is anything from short dumps and etc. You could detect any of those problems as well. Now, on the main area that we'll discuss today is around, for example, as soon as we get an alert within Cloud ALM, there's different types of triggers, for example. Some of them could be email, chats, tickets, and etc. that Cloud ALM will automatically create. But however, in this case, it's always just an outbound call. So, for example, at any given time when there's an alert, create it, you could integrate it for emails, chats, tickets, tasks, or pretty much in any third-party tool that you like. However, those alerts within Cloud ALM will remain open because once they are created in a different system, unless you close them manually, you will not have another inbound call, and this is something that Cloud ALM at this point does not offer, for example. So within our integration today, our goal is to kind of give you an example that if there is any type of alerts that are created within ServiceNow tool, how do you close those directly from ServiceNow, and then how do they get closed within Cloud ALM? Now, this is an example of what we're going to show you through the demonstration today. So we'll take a look at some of the alerts that are generated directly from Cloud ALM. We'll also take a look at, for example, how that incident is created within ServiceNow, for example, with all of the details and etc. And then we'll go walk through an incident in ServiceNow and how do we close that incident, and also what does it do within Cloud ALM as well. And to kind of just give you a quick view, what we're going to walk through today within the demonstration is, here's an example of a ABAP response time that was raised. It will automatically have a ticket underneath for that incident, for example, that was generated in ServiceNow. But what's important also in here is within the ServiceNow ticket, you'll get all of the details for that alert. And you'll also have, for example, a link back where you can go back into this alert within Cloud ALM and review it if you need further analysis. What the goal is for us to, for example, to have this specific alert in here within ServiceNow, close it, and then also to do the same within Cloud ALM. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and start the demonstration. So once we log into within Cloud ALM, you'll have different types of options here on top. Our goal today is to go through the operations primarily, and then let's say there's different types of tiles here for each one of the monitoring. You don't necessarily have to use all of them, but our goal today is we're going to walk through job and health monitoring, and then the rest of these, for example, is, let's say if you have a need for any type of business process monitoring where you want to monitor some of the functional areas, as I mentioned, POs or any type of sales orders and etc., or depending on the industry that you're in. That's something that you can use for this. And then you also have integration and real user monitoring, synthetic, and configuration and security monitoring. Now, we'll go into the job monitoring first. So just kind of give you a quick example of what you'll kind of see within the page. So depending on the system that you're actually monitoring, so they'll all show within this tile in here. And in our case, being a consulting company, we don't necessarily have a lot of systems within our company. But as you can see, we're monitoring Cloud ALM, we're monitoring an SAP Solution Manager. If there's no data, most likely we didn't collect much. But as you see within this environment here, we're monitoring some jobs for this S4 environment. And then within here, it's going to give you an overall view of the type of issues that are happening. And keep in mind, this is also refreshed, let's say, every couple minutes or depending on what you set it on, or you can pause it, but you can refresh this data at any given time and it'll bring back any metrics that are set. Now, if you navigate to the next screen, which is the monitoring in here, this is where you primarily get, for example, all of the jobs and how are they doing. So I'll give you an idea. So I see two of them are, for example, they have an exception status, which means two of them are somehow canceled or they have some type of errors. You'll also get an application status, and then you'll get a status, run delay, and etc. But it'll give you all of this information. Then depending, for example, if you set up any type of alerts for my job monitoring, I don't necessarily have any alerts set up. I'm just looking at it from an analysis perspective, but you will also raise any type of alerts anytime when there's a failure for any of the jobs in here. But the idea is, for example, if you navigate to any of these jobs in here, so you can go a step further and then you'll get exactly what happened to that job, why did it fail, and etc. So you can click on more details, and then also will give you the information for the actual run ID of that job. So if you need to investigate it further and etc., it'll give you all of the links in here to navigate through and check the details. Now, there's also going to be some exceptions, for example, in here. So the two of the jobs that you just saw in there, those are it's going to give us an kind of like a let's say a overall view of those jobs that are failing. So it kind of will tell you that the last 24 hours, the last 7 days, or the last 30 days, the jobs that are failing, and etc. So in our case, we only have 2 failures in here, which are at the bottom. So you'll get an idea of all of the jobs. Keep in mind that you can also decide which of the jobs do you want to monitor. So you don't necessarily have to. In my case, we're monitoring the entire system and we're bringing in every single job. So for example, in a lot of cases, we see the customers only want to monitor certain jobs in the system, for example, that are very, let's say, very important. And you can decide which of the jobs you want to monitor directly within this environment. The next step is we're going to go more into the health monitoring. And this is also where you have a little bit more flexibility within the health monitoring. You'll also get a very similar view. So you'll have an overview of all of your environments in here. And keep in mind, you can also monitor different types of services if you have anything running in BTP as well. So in this case, if you're monitoring any type of S/4HANA system, so in our case, we have a on-prem S/4HANA. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at, for example, at this one of the clients in here, and then it will give you an overview of each one of the metrics that we have turned on for this specific S4 environment. So for example, even if you're monitoring any type of license expirations and etc., but you'll have work processes that are on hold, stopped, usage, and etc. As you see some of these, for example, that are red, it means that whatever threshold that we had on here, it already surpassed, for example, but does not necessarily mean that we have set up for us to create any type of alerts as well. There's 2 views in here. You can also do it all metrics, which will give you this view in here, for example, and it'll just give you a bit more details as to the rating, if it's only information and etc. Or for example, in here, it'll give you all of the details, including, for example, how much space you have, especially on those S/4HANA or any type of SAP system file stored as well. So also one more item, just to kind of give you an idea how easy it is, for example, to edit any type of configuration. So any metrics, and if you want to modify any type of that thresholds within SAP Cloud ALM. So as soon as you're monitoring all of these, you're able to actually click on that edit, and then you can monitor any of these thresholds. What we commonly see with most of our customers is that initially when we set up Cloud ALM monitoring, maybe all of the thresholds may not be where they should, because this is, for example, best practice from SAP, but they may not work for every customer. So in this case, as you go through this process, you'll continue to modify these thresholds, but it's fairly easy how you can modify them, and depending on your needs. For example, the last thing that you want to do is get false alerts within Cloud ALM. For example, there isn't an alert that we're essentially just gonna close it every time, because it does not necessarily impact business because the threshold is too low. Now, the second part in here of this demonstration is what happens if an alert gets raised. So, for example, any alert that comes into Cloud ALM is going to be in a format in here. And then once you click on it, it's going to give you all of the details, for example, as to when did that alert gets raised. For example, in this case, it looks like we have some short dumps in here, and we have at least one short dump that got raised for within this environment. So then you'll get some additional details in here. And again, even in here, you can also modify that configuration, for example, if required as well. You'll also get, for example, the item that we want to take a look at here. For example, you also get a ticket created directly. So you'll have different types of actions. So one of them could be that, for example, we could create a ticket automatically, where every time there's an alert created, it automatically generates a ticket, an email, and etc. In our case, every time there's an alert created in here, it will automatically generate an incident within ServiceNow. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you, for example, how we would create a ticket if it's, for example, something manual. So we'll choose, for in this case, this is the ServiceNow integration. So it will send all of these alerts in here. And then once you click OK, then it will automatically generate that ticket within this area in here. Now, it will also respond right back with the incident within ServiceNow. So for example, once you navigate to that incident, it should give us all of the details that that ticket was generated. So for example, the incident number that was just created in there, also what is the short description, for example, and then any type of information in here, such as which one is the system, when was it reported, what is it, and also you'll get a link directly back into SAP Cloud ALM. So for example, if you need to navigate into that tool back and then review that, you can take it back to the alert, so you can get additional information if you need it, for example. So if you wanted to come back and look at the rating, when did this start, when did this end, and etc., you could always navigate back to this as well. Now, any other information in here, for example, such as in here that the caller didn't come, but if you wanted to also map additional fields within ServiceNow from Cloud ALM alerts, you could map any of these fields within here, as long as there is, let's take an example, as long as there's a field in here that we could map it to, all of that information could be mapped into ServiceNow, where you could primarily send that information, so you don't necessarily have to go into Cloud ALM as well. So any given time, for example, when you also make any changes, so what I'll do is I'll put this in progress state as an incident. Initially, when let's say we took over the incident and then we'll start working on this. And then what's going to happen at any given time when we go to this ticket, and I'll go ahead and just refresh the screen very quickly. You'll see that, for example, that ticket, it's also going to change to, for example, in progress. So any type of status changes that they make within ServiceNow, it's automatically going to synchronize or apply within Cloud ALM as well. And then most important is, as we go through this process within here, and then we go ahead and close it, for example, it will also automatically close this ticket, and we can close the alert as well. So for example, when we're done with this alert, it will automatically close the alert. Therefore, we don't necessarily have to come back into Cloud ALM and close the alert as well. Okay, so that's what we wanted to show you today, is primarily just an overall view of Cloud ALM into the operations, also this integration within ServiceNow and incident management. There's obviously multiple other ways to integrate it, but if you have any questions, feel free to put those questions within the chat, and then I'll be more than happy, or Steve will be more than happy to answer those questions for you.
Thanks, Valdrin. That's really interesting. And yeah, the capabilities of Cloud ALM look pretty good. The user interface looks nice, and nice to be able to see how that can integrate with ServiceNow. So first question that we have is the installation process. How does this get installed, and how long does it take to do that and get it up and running?
Not sure if the question is just around Cloud ALM or ServiceNow integration as well, but maybe I'll answer both. So from a Cloud ALM perspective, this is offered by SAP, and you could stand up an instance directly in BTP. Now, from an integration service at the ServiceNow, there's an application that you have to install from ServiceNow store, and then obviously we have to build that integration between Cloud ALM and ServiceNow. Given the fact that both tools are cloud tools, so it's a pretty quick integration without having any type of network issues or, let's say, complications.
Okay, good. Okay, so it sounds pretty easy. And like you said, Cloud ALM comes if you are using an enterprise license, you should be able to get access to that. Not very complicated to do. And then you just need connectivity, I guess, out to ServiceNow to do the connection. So for those people that are using Solution Manager still, what are the options available on Solution Manager?
So from a transition into Cloud ALM, there's really not, for operations side, there's not necessarily much of a, let's say, migration that you necessarily have to do because it's just alerts and monitoring. However, it would be more of, for example, start to get Cloud ALM to work, have all of the systems. You could have both Solution Manager and Cloud ALM monitor the systems at the same time. And once you're comfortable with Cloud ALM, you could turn off or, let's say, decommission monitoring within Solution Manager and start to use Cloud ALM.
Okay, great. And it sounds like Cloud ALM it has some basic transport management features. So for those people that want to use Cloud ALM, but they need to manage transports on SAP, I think we have a few options available for them. Do you want to cover what those options are?
I can, absolutely. So if you're using SAP Solution Manager, and you obviously you can continue to use that until end of life, then the couple of other options are Cloud ALM does have a basic transport management where you can create and let's say deploy a transport into the target system. So it does have some functionality, I would say basic functionality to create transports and etc. Does not have yet the capabilities such as downgrade protection and cross-system object lock-in that Solution Manager or other tools have, let's say, just yet. Now we also, for example, if you have third-party tools such as ServiceNow or Jira or Azure DevOps, and I think Steve, you already mentioned this, but we also have an integration to TMS with all of those additional features such as downgrade protection, CSOL or cross-system object lock-in, and etc.
Yeah, and I think the idea for that product when we came out with that was really to provide a bridge for people that are on Solution Manager today, want to take advantage of their existing tools, ServiceNow, to be able to manage transports, but kind of want to get off of the Solution Manager platform, and they see that Cloud ALM isn't quite ready yet. So we developed that interim strategy of being able to manage your transports directly from ServiceNow. That can be tied together as part of an overall ITSM process with some of these monitoring capabilities that we discussed today to give you a full ITSM operational process. And we'll also bridge those licenses. So if at some point later, Cloud ALM, as soon as Cloud ALM has the capabilities to do transport management and those APIs are available, then we will provide integrations for that suite as well. And you can migrate your existing license if you're using direct TMS. If you want to have that plugged into Cloud ALM, then we can transition your license over. So that's pretty much what we wanted to cover today. And I want to thank everyone for joining our call today. I also want to thank you, Valdrin, for walking us through extensive demonstration on some of the capabilities for monitoring within Cloud ALM and how that can be integrated with ServiceNow. So please do mark us in your calendars. You can scan the barcode that's on your screen right now, or you can visit us at corealm.com/resources, or just go to our website, click on the webinars button in the top right corner. If you want to reach out and get in touch with us, you can also visit our website, corealm.com, and click on the Talk to an Expert button, fill out the form, and we can be right back in touch with you. We can set up some time to do private demonstration of any of your applications or to discuss any issues or challenges you're having with your existing implementation and how you can take that to the next level. Thanks everyone for joining us today. As I promised, you'll get a copy of the recording sent to you by email, so you can watch it again for anything that you want to revisit, and you can provide links to your colleagues. Thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.